What is going on, Internet? Eric Manholz back again with another e-commerce conversations. I hope all is well on the other side of the internet. On the other side of the internet from me, Chris, what's up?
How's it going, Eric? Well, good to be back.
Good to be back. Good to be back. We were just, before we hit record, we did a little research. It was 2022 that you were last on e-commerce conversations. But for those who are new listeners, who the heck are you? What the heck do you do?
Those are great questions. Who the heck am I? Just a small town Texan boy. Decided to start a manufacturing company, try e-commerce, try wholesale, try international. We're just out here trying stuff. My brand is Liber Co. We make premium, non-alcoholic syrups for bars, restaurants, home consumers, coffee shops. We kind of do it all here in Central Texas, manufacturing, warehouse, marketing, taking it on.
That is not easy. That is not easy, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's some things are easy and some things are very hard. There's a lot going on, so you can kind of pick your battles. Do you want it to be an easy day or a hard day, which is part of the fun, but it's not incredibly easy, no.
I would say the majority of e-com people do not choose to do manufacturing. What drew you into that? Like, why did you feel that was something that you had to do?
It's interesting. My founders and I are from the same town, we're the same age, went to high school together. We have similar, we come from similar class level, not to say that that's all of it, but we had blue collar parents. We did not really have a network to kind of use and to try to outsource things to. It was basically like, if we wanted to get it done, we're going to do it ourselves. I think that was part of it. The other thing is we were foodies, and you can't really outsource being a foodie or a chef. Like, you kind of have to go do it. Even the best chefs in the world are like in the kitchen with the pan, turning the heat up, seasoning. And that really resonated for us. So when we decided to start making our product, we were as close as possible. We wanted to be in the mix, understanding exactly what the flavors were doing, where the sourcing was coming from. So we brought a very DIY culture to it and kind of never looked back. Besides one time where we were like, wait, should we try to outsource everything immediately? Or that was during a lease negotiation, which was kind of a tense time. But mostly we were all like full steam ahead on just keeping this stuff in-house.
So, you say you're foodies. I would imagine it's kind of like the classic style. You start working on something in the kitchen.
Yeah.
You see something that didn't exist and you're like, oh, I can make this. Walk me through like what that journey has been like in learning the best practices for production. Because I feel like there's something a little bit different from making something in your kitchen and building a
Definitely.
full-on manufacturing facility.
There is. It's a long road. Again, for us, not bringing in like the McKinseys or the BCG consultants of the world to say like, here's how you do this at scale. It was a lot of research and trial and error. We did really start from like a stock pot, like this big, just like a saucepan. And then we got to like a 25-gallon pan, and then like a 200-gallon tank, and now multiple 1,500-gallon tanks. So for us, you really couldn't bite off too much at once, or you would find yourself in hot water. And even with that kind of step up, we still did. But to imagine the thing that didn't happen from us going to this to where we are now, we would have made so many terrible mistakes. So I think iterating, taking a little bit of time to figure out what works. That doesn't really seem like a big shortcut if you're going to do it that way. For us, our product was fairly unique. Like, if you want to start a brewery, there's probably those blueprints on how to be like a 2-barrel, like go to home brewing to 10-barrel to 100-barrel to 1,000-barrel system. Maybe that's more mapped out. For us, there wasn't. So it was a lot of me doing research, getting in samples, trying things. One time we almost like blew up a tank, a brand new process vessel that we got because we didn't know what we were doing. Literally like hooked it up the wrong way. So, you make mistakes and you go from there. But I think the point is you don't take such a big leap that failure could really screw you over. We've been lucky in that way. We could probably go down any avenue, pick one sort of detail and kind of go more into that. But I don't know how far you want to go into that.
Well, I want to kind of talk about like the perseverance, because what you're talking about is your facility where you're at now is completely different than where you were at when you started the
Yeah.
25-gallon
Yeah.
jugs. And, I would imagine there was a lot of sacrifice um, scaling up the business as you're doing these smaller batch sizes. Like, are they generating enough revenue? Are you able to produce enough to,
Yes.
are you working on the side? Like, walk me through those kind of earlier days when you're kind of a smaller manufacturing facility.
I mean, you're right. Like if you decide to take on your own manufacturing, you're very throttled by your own throughput. Like you cannot sell more than you can make. You can't just put an order into your co-manufacturer because you are them and you're not taking any more orders because you're at capacity. That has always been true. Early on, we frankly the way we did it is we spent at least like once or twice 18 hours in the kitchen straight. We had an order from HEB. It needed to get filled. There was no way we were gonna short them. So it's sort of like blue collar. You like put on the dungarees and go to Sonic when you need a break. But like besides just fuel and water, you're just in the kitchen. That was something we were willing to make then when we were 23, 4 years old. It's been 13 years. I don't think luckily we have to do that anymore, but there were definitely sacrifices on the front end to stay lean, to own that manufacturing, make sure we had our heads around it, required definitely some sacrifices that we are no longer willing to make. I think it's good that we started young. I think to pivot, companies who outsourced initially and then brought it in-house, I think that proved a lot harder, especially on the capital front. They had to go out and raise money because they were at such a scale where they couldn't take those smaller bites and gain that, like, kind of increasing productivity, increasing, profitability that allowed them to take the next bite. They had to basically say, like, "We're at a certain scale where we need $10 million," and you had to go fundraise that and sell part of your company. I think it's worked for those people, but it's also just not how we're wired. Like, sacrificing those points in the company is something we're fairly allergic to. So those stair steps were really important for us as we grew.
How difficult was it to maintain the quality as you scaled up? Because I would imagine like there is, to a certain degree, there's, I know the formulation and I can blend it together on my countertop and everything's perfect. But once I start scaling up, there's got to be like slightly different operational processes to
There
ensure.
definitely are. Um, People can go wrong quickly. There's also just the pressure of being more profitable and trying to, not cut corners, but take certain liberties with the process that we've always tried to push away from us. Like we are very in the weeds on pump design and, process flow and how much air is contacting our product because, as a food product, oxidation is kind of an enemy. Um, Scaling up becomes significantly harder. The capital costs, it's not an exponential curve, but it's not linear either. To really make those jumps is very expensive, and to do it in a safe way. Also, as a food product, and this is true of your product too. Um, Essentially, spoilage is a big concern. Food safety is a big concern. We're under the FDA's umbrella, Texas State Department of Health. There are certain things that you just full stop cannot beat around the bush on, cannot sacrifice on. um, the product quality really does matter. It's paramount. In terms of the batch size, it actually, in a lot of ways, if you can do your research and you can get the right stuff, you're for us, the product quality has actually increased. Um, we're able to do things faster now and source better ingredients just by virtue of scale. Um, Previously, we were like very early on, we were buying grapefruits like and juicing them, which is fine. But the fruit that you get at the grocery store is picked like weeks ago, right? Like
Right.
unripe, doesn't have the sugar content, doesn't have all those flavor and aroma molecules. They go through like wholesale storage. They're sitting in some, building for a while. They're getting bruised. Like what you get on the grocery shelf is actually not the best stuff. The best way to do it is to work directly with a farmer who waits for peak ripeness. Especially in our case, the raspberries are picked and within 1 hour, they are juiced and processed. And they wait right until a certain bricks, like a certain amount of sugar, dissolved sugar content. That is not true of even the blackberries that a restaurant could get through Cisco. They just do not have that quality. And now that we can buy sufficient volume, it unlocks some supply chain sources for us. that I think are really big wins. Like, I think our products are better than have they ever been, even when we were really small and doing it on the stovetop.
Walk me through how you start that process. How do you find the farmers? Are there farmer trade shows? Like, are you just driving around in
So
regions that grow raspberries? You
a
know,
race,
like
that'd be like a great, me with like a little cowboy hat going, on my tractor. Not quite. There are some food shows. I actually haven't been to them. I'm going to my first show in next month actually in San Diego, a frozen food conference that a lot of these farmers and cooperatives go to. I'm curious to see what that looks like. But so far, it's been a lot of Googling lately, ChatGPT, Gemini help, reaching out to suppliers, sending just a request for proposal. Like, here's our company, here's what we're looking for, here are our demands in terms of product specifications. Can you satisfy those? Can you send us those documents? And then can you send us a sample? And we'll go far and wide. I mean, ginger, we looked everywhere: African, Chinese, Vietnamese, Hawaiian. We ended up with Peruvian, but we basically cast a wide net. Um, and again, some of it's word of mouth. Someone will just say, "Hey, I saw this ginger when I was in Peru. You should check it out," and send me like a photo of the brand, and I'll just like Google the brand, find the guy's LinkedIn. And that's kind of a true story in that instance. But it's a lot of digging, a lot of relentlessness to just go deep. I come from a research background in biology. I kind of like nerd out on getting into the weeds. But that has been pretty successful for us. We usually will try to always have a backup supplier because in fresh produce, things go south. Like just this year, like pineapples kind of got decimated the world over and prices went up. We had some backup supply frozen, which kind of helped smooth out the cost curve a little bit, but sometimes you do get pinched. So it's not always easy.
yeah, it's that balance of loading up on inventory and putting a lot of your capital in inventory to kind
Mhm.
of handle those swings. I would imagine, from what I understand, frozen fruit and vegetables are actually more nutrient dense than
Yes.
like quote unquote fresh fruit, right? So there doesn't seem to correct me if I'm wrong again. Like there doesn't seem to be a negative consequence to going after frozen food, right?
No, generally you're getting a better product. Again, because those farmers can wait like the raspberry, like day of. They take a raspberry and I mean, you can see the videos, they just like crush it in their finger and drip it onto this machine, or not really a machine, just a little tool called the refractometer. And they close the lid and they hold it up to the light. And it'll tell you the dissolved sugar content. So even the FDA will tell you what the like kind of approved bricks is for every juice: pomegranate, peach, raspberry, and what it should be. And so those farmers are trying to hit, well, plus or minus a couple percentage points. They're
Right.
trying to hit a certain ripeness, and all the characters that we love in fruit and vegetables, aroma, flavor, sugar content, those all come from ripening on the vine. Obviously, you can go too far and it can rot, but there's sort of a sweet spot, no pun intended. And once you harvest, you either need to use immediately or freeze. And freezing is a great way to preserve that quality. There is capital in that. People have to pay for storage and transportation costs on frozen food, which is not cheap, but it's completely worth it. And I think you're seeing in the food market in general, there's been a lot of development on the frozen cold chain, as it's called. A lot of larger buildings are building up, even here in Texas, in Central Texas. We've kind of been a bit of on an island. There's a new facility here in North Austin, brand new building, dedicated frozen. We actually use it. Plenty of people use it. If you want top quality food ingredients, you typically need to be looking at the frozen cold chain.
There's let's say there's 10 farmers growing raspberries. We'll stick to the raspberry instance. How likely is it that one of those farms is going to meet your quality standard? Because
Mhm.
I would imagine a lot of farmers, whether it be intentionally or unintentionally, try to push off product that is, like they grew it, they want to get rid of it, they want to
Yeah.
get paid for it, and then also the size of the farm too. Like you mentioned, buying a certain amount. I would imagine you're still a small company, like and I don't know like how big these farms are. Are there farms that span in size that you're able to really pretty much buy up all their raspberries, or are you typically just getting a small portion of it?
Typically a small portion, the Smuckers of the world are the ones buying a lot of raspberries.
Yeah.
Um, Typically what we've seen in the industry that I think is a good system, you find cooperatives of smaller farmers. Usually there's a geographical region that grows the product, or maybe there's two or three. Central Valley, California, Oregon, and Washington, those are berry rich regions. And again, to stick with raspberries, ours comes from the Pacific Northwest. What you have is a lot of independent farmers, so family run farms, like third generation guys out there who have their 20, maybe 200 acres, and they're tending to that. But around them is a bunch more independent farmers. So it's actually pretty great. You have a lot of network effect by being all in the same place, growing the same. You can have the same weather. You end up with a very consistent, high quality product. But by virtue of them being independent, you don't you don't have sort of the negative knock on effects that you might get with like a monopoly, where one, maybe private equity backed company is like really pinching pennies and like, we got to harvest early. There's not a lot of
Mhm.
sacrifice that I've seen on that co op model. I like it a lot. We are definitely only buying a small amount. We typically buy, a truckload or two on a year of a given product. So 40,000, 80,000 pounds. Um, these co ops can usually do 400, 500 truckloads in a given harvest. So we're a small fraction of it. Um, but I think that benefits us. If we were trying to buy everything from one farm, it's just all your eggs in that one basket. It's probably not a very robust situation to find yourself in.
Let's talk about the market side of things. You're selling a product, a premium product. There's, I would imagine, a lot of the giant jugs that come in like plastic containers that you just
Yeah.
kind of pump out, maybe with artificial sweeteners. Um, do you, from what I see, alcohol as a channel seems to be having its lunch eaten by like the weed industry. So like, you're coming in to an industry that, is it at its peak? Do you see like people shifting, like if they're going to drink alcohol, they kind of shift to nicer things? Or what is kind of your take on the industry as a whole and where it's moving and how you respond to that?
Huge question. One we think about daily. I think there was a big surge in alcohol consumption, and even from a brand building perspective, just a number of new product launches around COVID. We were locked down, alcohol consumption went up, kind of went gangbusters along with the rest of the industry, especially when the bars and restaurants opened back. Like we kept all that at home demand and then bolted on the bar and restaurant, which is the last time we spoke to you, and we had like a really great year. Things have not gone so stratospheric for us in the last couple of years for reasons you're talking about here. There was just an overconsumption. Anytime you have that glut, there's going to be a natural retraction and a regression to a mean. If you zoom out enough, the trend line is still kind of up and to the right, but you had that big COVID bump and you're having that come down. I think that's real. Nobody knows exactly what the next 6 months or 6 years looks like, but you see a lot of people going out of business. Breweries started falling. Distilleries are, trimming their outlook and their forecasts. Distilleries are closing. I don't think alcohol is going to go away. I think the cocktail in particular has been around for 150 years. It's actually a uniquely American invention, which I think is really cool. But you do have more competition now from cannabis. I'm curious about it. There's some legislation that just got moved through and should be signed this year that would kind of effectively kneecap a lot of these new brands that have come out with THC cannabis drinks. The ruling right now, as it stands, you couldn't have more than 0.4 milligrams of THC. And a lot of these new companies like Ken and I don't know how to say it, Brez or Breeze, have way more than that. And they're kind of killing it on D2C right now. But I'm looking at it like from a federal level, are you kind of dead in the water? I don't know. I don't really know if this is just something that's going to blow over, maybe take a couple years to mature. But I'm
Well,
curious.
I've got I mean, on X, there's a few of them like Nick Shackelford.
Mhm.
Um, their business has shifted from making and selling products to getting into the regulatory game. Like literally, like,
Yeah, influencing policy.
yeah, influencing policy, which is just kind of crazy to think about at a certain level that that still needs to be done, and not all things can just be handled by the market. And how quickly like you could just be put out of business by a change in policy.
Or they get kind of shoehorned into like having to sell at a licensed dispensary, which is obviously does not give them the touch points to the consumer that they want. I'm thinking about it from not that we're doing soul searching, but as a syrup company, um, we could do that, right? We could make a cannabis infused syrup. Just the Liber fans out there, this is not actually in development, but theoretically, we could do more of the coffee game. Liber was the Roman god of drinking and having a good time. Like if you take a step back from a branding perspective, that actually opens up a lot. Like drinking and having a good time. That's a lot of different industries. That's a lot of different products that are possible. So we're paying attention. But right now, I think alcohol is in a lull. But even if you look at the forecast from the big guys, it's still instead of 4% year-over-year growth, which is what it was doing during COVID, now it's like 1.5 to 2, which, is not gangbusters, but there's growth there, and people will still drink as they have done for millennia.
Last night, I opened up a Topo Chico, poured in some of your real grenadine,
Nice.
which I might get you to go on a little rant. And then we also had the cola one, and I had my kids drinking. I wouldn't even call it a mocktail. It's more of a personalized flavored water.
Yeah.
And I feel like for kids being exposed to like Cokes and like the incredibly high sugar content, um, it can be a fun way for them to like kind of make their own drink
Yeah.
and not consume as many calories in that process. Is that something that you see as a growing industry, or is there potential there, or is it like too big of a hurdle to kind of sell?
I think it's growing. I don't think it's too big of a hurdle. The good news about our syrups is they're very concentrated and you can control everything. So as a, dad concerned with your, hyperactivity of your child before bedtime, a Coke is a defined amount of sugar and sweetness. It's 10% sugar, roughly. For our products, you could take that Topo Chico 12-ounce bottle and add a quarter of an ounce of our passion fruit. That your kid's going to taste passion fruit. The color is going to change. There is going to be some sugar, but you can really dial it in. You can say like, look, we're going to do a half pour or a quarter pour. So I like the freedom and the control that it gives, not just the dad, but even the beverage operator at a restaurant. Like you can really control things. Um, I like that. It does make for a little bit more work, but I think you can kind of put a bit of a fun spin on it. Again, going back to being a foodie and being like in the kitchen, doing all the details. If you have the interest and aptitude for that, I think our product suits very well. We are to this point a cocktail brand. So I don't want to market to children. You go to our website and it's beverage alcohol. Those two do not mix. But again, fine drinks, good times. There could be a product line that completely eschews alcohol and the alcohol industry and just focuses on maybe something more junior.
Yeah. And then most people knows grenadine as cherry flavor.
Right.
What's up with that?
Well, grenadine is the root word is French, grenade, which is also related to grenade, the weapon. Because when you open a pomegranate, it looks like a grenade with all the little pieces. So the weapon was named after the pomegranate. But anyway, grenade, I think, more or less, is French for pomegranate. So originally, there was a pomegranate syrup. It kind of got through the 1920s, somehow transmorgified into cherry-esque syrup. We kind of took it back to its roots, hence real. There's nothing wrong with cherry. But real grenadine, we say, is a pomegranate syrup. So we're using California pomegranate in our real grenadine.
From marketing, I want to walk through like that marketing aspect of that, because you have this societal accepted quote unquote truth
Yeah.
that is factually wrong. And like the rule follower in me is like, yeah, if grenadine is pomegranate, it's got to be pomegranate. But everybody who goes to buy it might be expecting a cherry and having an unpleasant experience if they're expecting a cherry. How do you um really, how do you tackle that challenge between reality and
Yeah.
expectations?
We're lucky. In the bar and restaurant industry, there is some awareness that real grenadine is pomegranate based. I think that just came from all these like old bar manuals from the, 1800s and early 1900s where these guys were writing like, oh, you go back, it's like Jerry Thomas was talking about this stuff. So there's sort of a baseline level of knowledge in the cocktail world. When you get outside of that, that's where you run into like, I was expecting cherry. And then it's frankly an uphill battle and it's not always easy. Um, and you may miss some people, but for us, being as authentic of a brand as possible and like pushing so hard on the provenance and the quality of our ingredients, we're willing to maybe make that sacrifice. We have a line of products that are called gum syrups, GUM. Um, they incorporate gum arabic, which is like this resin from the acacia tree. Super weird esoteric stuff. Basically, a bartender's secret ingredient. And we still call our products that, even though we know everyone's like, gum syrup? Like, why do I want this? Bubble gum? What is going on?
Yeah.
Um, so there's two ways to think about it. One, we're probably growing a little bit slower because we're like attempting to educate the consumer rather than just like kind of giving them what they expect and know. But it is a way to differentiate the brand. And I'm a big fan of Dyson from the vacuum cleaners and just being different from the other products that are out there. Like they're big companies, $500 billion a year revenue syrup companies. And if we just make something that's like slightly better than them, I don't think we're going to win market share. I don't think we're going to build our brand well. I think we need to be at like at least 50%, if not twice as good. And to like carve out a piece of the customer's mind. It's like, oh yeah, they make the gum syrups. As weird as that may sound, now they know us and we're distinguished in their mind. We have a little bit of brand cachet that we otherwise wouldn't have.
So are the majority of your clients or customers bartenders then?
Yes.
Cocktail.
Yeah,
Okay.
and maybe not professional, but just at home. Like if you kind of
Okay.
sample across our Shopify or Amazon orders, these people are mixing drinks.
Okay. So, because when I think about, the bartender, like are restaurants your clients as well? Like, do you have a strong wholesale
Yes.
department? And do you is that something that you do like bulk pricing on, or wholesale pricing? Is it kind of like a traditional model there too, or okay?
Yeah, and we have some distributors too. So we do link arms with many like beer and wine and liquor distributors, just because those sales outfits understand the product, understand what the product is supposed to do. So if a house sells even Budweiser, right, they're going into these bars and restaurants. We have a little more difficulty on the grocery setting. People don't generally buy their grenadine even at a grocery store. We tend to excel where there is beverage alcohol next to the bottle. But yes, we have wholesale pricing. You can email us if you're just a random bar in Sheboygan that suddenly has found out that grenadine should have pomegranate and you really want to make your Shirley Temples or your craft cocktails with real grenadine. Email us. We'll get you set up an account. You'll get wholesale pricing, all that good stuff.
You've kind of like tiptoed around the edge of this, and I kind of want to lead into like the future. You've said multiple times, you're a beverage company, beverage and spirit company. How do you continue to evolve the brand? Do you feel limited to things that you can produce and manufacture, or do you feel like there's opportunity to grow maybe in channels that you aren't bringing in house?
I think the latter is possible. We've thought a lot about different packaging formats. Like here, we are set up to put syrup, mostly any pourable liquid into our bottles or something very similar. The other big format that kind of crushes is cans. So we've thought about, even to take an example of like a bottled or canned cocktail. Or maybe it's just a canned mocktail, or a canned cannabis beverage. Like those, from a product formulation, supply chain sourcing, food safety, like we could do that. The packaging is tricky. Packaging is, as you know, one of the more costly part of your cost of goods. You can sometimes get trapped in what is possible in your format. So we have some space here that we could theoretically bring in a new line, a new packaging line, canned, for example. But at our scale now, I do think there's an opportunity to maybe outsource that. There's a lot of co-manufacturers who can put a lot of different stuff in cans. We would kind of need to weigh the unit economics of that, and then also do a little bit of soul searching about just how crazy we are about control. Like, are we willing to let things go? That's an open-ended question for us, but I definitely do not feel limited from a brand or even a product formulation perspective with where we are now. I think we do have some options to grow both, deep on what we have now, but also horizontally with different formats, different product types.
So you're not limiting yourself and being like, we have to be a manufacturer. We have to, like, if we have this new idea for something and it doesn't
I don't
work within our.
No, I don't think that that's a 100% rule. I think we would need, some real assurances. It's kinda like finding a, fulfillment company. Ideally, it's right in your backyard, and you can go knock on the door when things go awry. Texas is a pretty strong manufacturing state. I think we're doing a really good job of making stuff here in the United States. There are a lot of really, like, high quality canning companies. Houston, I don't know about Austin so much, but Dallas in particular has some. I would feel comfortable probably, negotiating those types of contracts, but I would always be tempted to say like, "Okay, well, like, what would be if we do invest in a canning line here, what does that look like?" And then kind of pick some runways of 6 months, you got a lot of capital expenditure, but then over the course of the lifetime of the product, maybe that works out better. Maybe we feel more comfortable for it. I'm not sure yet.
What is your favorite syrup and where can people buy it?
My favorite syrup is, not surprisingly, one that we make. I think our raspberry, to go back to it, is unbelievable. I think the quality is great. I put it on ice cream. I made basically a yogurt kind of mix this morning, and I like drizzled it on there. Cocktails, Topo Chico. It's awesome. You can buy it on our website or on Amazon.
That's a good. I didn't even think about putting on yogurt or ice cream.
It's so good. And the
There's
new
so many
pour
uses
stops that
for your
we have, you
products.
can really control it. Like, you can just kinda put, like, a little drizzle. So I just make, like, a little zigzag. It's not that much sugar, but the flavor is just exceptional.
I eat plain yogurt every day with a little bit of honey, but I'm gonna have to try the.
The other one,
I'm gonna have a Coke. I'm gonna have a Coke yogurt tomorrow
you're
morning.
gonna be amped, dude.
It's going to be good. And then you said what was the website again?
So we are liberandcompany.com.
.com. Chris, thanks for coming back on the show. I've enjoyed it thoroughly. It's been really amazing to watch what you've built. I've toured your facility. It's an incredible facility. You make great products. The packaging has been elevated since the last time
Thank
you've
you.
come on board. Highly recommend that you give him a follow, buy some of his syrups. You don't need to do it if you are a teetotaler. There's a lot of opportunities out there.
Yeah.
As always, thanks for listening. Cheers.
Thanks, Eric. It's great.
Keep on growing.